Welcome to Real Estate AI Flash, the podcast that helps you understand how AI is changing real estate and the strategies you can use to win. I'm your host, Rajeev Sajja. In today's episode, we explore how AI is helping agents market listings more effectively by identifying the right buyers before a home even hits the market. I'm joined by Jayson Flory, CEO of Turn the Key Real Estate in Sacramento, California, who shares how he's using AI to build detailed buyer personas, create highly targeted marketing campaigns, and improve the return on every marketing dollar he spends. We also discuss AI-powered content creation, automating workflows, SEO strategies, and why agents should focus less on reaching everyone and more on reaching the right people. If you're looking for practical ways to use AI to attract better buyers, strengthen your listing presentations, and build smarter marketing systems, this episode is packed with ideas you can put to work immediately. Let's get right to it with Jayson. Welcome to episode 132 of the Real Estate AI Flash. And today we have somebody from Sacramento, California, Jayson Flory, CEO of Turn the Key Real Estate. He's been doing some cool stuff with AI. I heard him on a podcast over a year ago, and a year in AI seems like a decade. So I'm sure there's a lot more stuff to talk about. Jayson, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Yeah, so excited to be here. Thanks for reaching out, and loved what you've been doing and the breadth and the audience that you're building. So it's incredible.
Yeah, no, it's as you know, I mean, it is a transformative technology on many levels, and we'll get into stuff that impacts and how AI, real estate agents can take advantage of how they can grow their. I love one of the taglines you've used. I sort of looked you up on social, and it said AI should enhance your service and not minimize your effort. Maybe paraphrasing. But I love that. I think AI should really do that for real estate agents to, if you learn how to do it, and we can get into some of that stuff. So I'd love for the listening audience, if you're listening or watching us on YouTube, to get to know Jayson a little bit. And how did you get into real estate and bring us to today, Jayson?
Yeah, I got into real estate as I made an exit from the fitness industry after 15 years of doing that. It wasn't ever a dream of mine to get into real estate. In fact, I'd been on the lending side, and I was like, what are agents really even doing in this process?
Yeah.
As most, lenders think of us. And I reached out to kind of he was like an older brother, uncle type to me. He was running a team. I'd known him since I was 9, so definitely trusted him. He named his son after me. So, there's a lot of cool history there. And I reached out and I said, hey, I'm thinking about doing that real estate thing. What's that look like? We talked for 2 or 3 months, and really my desire to get into real estate was to carry on my experience as a leader. Wasn't necessarily to sell and buy houses or anything like that. It was to develop into a leader in real estate, which ultimately I did after I left his team and started my own.
Yeah. And you also were in the armed services in one of the...
Yeah. I was in the Air Force. Yeah.
Air Force. Yeah. Well, thank you for your service.
Yeah, absolutely.
I never take that for granted, and appreciate all that you've done for that as well. So how long in real estate, Jayson?
Just over 9 years.
9 years. Nice. So you have a team now, and you're a CEO of Turn the Key Real Estate. So talk to a little bit about your team construct.
Yeah, so there's 10 agents on the team. They range anywhere from super brand new in the last 90 days to longer than I've been in the industry. And we operate in all 3 of the counties, because everybody knows Sacramento. Well, not everybody, but everybody thinks of, I'm in Rockland, but they still think of it as Sacramento. And so we operate in Placer, Sacramento County, and El Dorado County.
Nice. So, everybody has a light bulb moment, the first one or the first meaningful one. What was yours? Light bulb? What are your first light bulb moment with AI that you felt like I need to lean in?
So we started shifting our listing videos to the lifestyle videos, like the Shane and Gillette led that track. And so we started doing that, really listing the properties around what's around the house, not just the house itself. And excuse me. And then with that, I started thinking, that was probably October of 24 now.
Yeah.
And I started thinking, okay, if I know what I like around this house and of why somebody's probably going to want to move here, I could probably use AI to figure out who that buyer is from the first place
Yeah.
and create that buyer avatar for the house itself. And so it was February of 25 when we had fully developed that instruction of who we are looking for, how, and all those things, and identified the buyer avatar. And since we started doing that, where now we lead with the end in mind. So all of my marketing, all of our keywords, all of those things are derived with that buyer avatar specifically. And since we started doing that in February of 25, we have not missed one time.
Wow.
Like eerily, like the age, the demographic, do they have a kid? Why do they want to live in that area? Like all of it. And we've nailed it every single time.
That's awesome. And I'd love to get into that a little bit more and talk specifics so people that are listening can take a page from that and kind of build that framework for themselves as well. So, as you get into, as we start talking about, maybe we start here and then we'll go into that buyer persona stuff that I think is very fascinating. Because I think a lot of times with the advent of AI, I think it's imperative for real estate agents. Consumers are already using it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as you know, there was a recent 1,000-watt survey that was done with 1,500 buyers and sellers early January that
Yep.
asked the question, did you use, this is consumers now, did you use AI in the real estate process for 1,500 buyers and sellers? And at the time, I always have to say at the time of the recording or at the time of the survey, it was 45% of them used it in some capacity, validating what their agents is saying or finding an agent, all of those things combination. It was 45%. So I think the consumers are starting to embrace the good and bad of AI in many ways, like accuracy, etc. I think it's imperative walking into a listing appointment or a buyer consult. How do you position yourself leveraging AI responsibly? Right. So I want to get to that conversation as well. As you go into buyer appointments, how do you not just lead with it? How do you sort of bring the topic up? And how do you say, if you hire me or work with me, this is how we sort of leverage it to kind of maximize the buyer outcomes or seller outcomes. So let's start with your tried and true. You have a team of 10. What I love about talking to you, Jayson, is you're an operator, but also a practitioner. So you're doing some things for systems for your 10 agents, teaching them the best, things to do and stay away from in many ways, right? So stuff like that. So let's talk about the tried and true technology, AI stuff that you're practicing tools wise. Maybe you start there, your tech stack, and then kind of go deep, and then we'll kind of move into that buyer persona stuff and listing conversations, etc.
Okay. I mean, as far as the tech stack, I think if there's a paid subscription for it, I probably have it. I mean, every once in a while I'll see, I'm like, oh yeah, or I go to get it and I'm like, oh, I already have that. I'm already paying for it. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's endless. The things I use most often, is I'm super into Claude more
Yeah.
so than ChatGPT, although I am using Codex and those things kind of as they see fit. Gemini for some different things, although with the new release from Claude, I was working on some images from that just this morning.
Yeah.
Fable. Yeah.
Table 5.
What's that? Yeah.
Table
Fable
5.
5.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we use that. I've used Replit in a couple instances to kind of take away where I was spending money and just build it myself. So I don't have those monthly subscriptions.
Yeah.
So that's helped. I think that, the tech stack, so to speak, now is just everything that we do, from our CRM, we use Commissions Inc. right now. And everything that I have, to try and quantify it, I don't know, because it just like it's endless, right? Everything that I do is some sort of, well, I need that for this. So everything though comes from Claude, and then it's a matter of what what I need to add to it from a Zapier or make.com. I have those workflows going as well. And then there's a couple of use cases, which I'm sure we'll get into.
Yeah, yeah. And I think Claude at the time of this recording does the best job with extending, making AI your like landing spot UI
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
And it has a bunch of connectors that you can plug other things in. You can connect your Gmail, Slack. I use Beehive for my newsletter,
Hmm.
and I can connect the Beehive MCP, and it pulls all my metrics, and it kind of, it almost becomes your user interface for all things you're doing in your business in a way.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about how did you sort of build, what was the framework you thought about for building that buyer persona stuff that you led early on with your light bulb moment? Let's talk about how you apply that and the building blocks for that.
Yeah. So, it's how we apply it. That's the foundation of
Yeah.
how we go into the listing presentation itself.
Okay.
And it's interesting as well when like I've got one right now where I gave her the buyer persona and she's like, "Oh my God, that's me. That's exactly why I bought this house." And so it just speaks to the seller of, yep, that completely checks out. Um, and so we use that when we are building the Instagram carousels or Facebook, or we use the wording is what is built into the script for my YouTube videos that we build, which then we run ads behind to those demographic areas. So if we know the buyer's coming from either the Bay Area, if it's something above $800,000, probably come from the Bay Area, or they're moving up from Sacramento. Well, I know I don't have to spend money in ads in El Dorado Hills, right?
Yeah.
It just wouldn't make sense, or Elk Grove, so to speak. Or, there's been times where we ran ads to LA, and for a house, because it was about 3 hours away, I ran ads to LA, and it was actually an LA buyer or an LA listing agent that saw our ad, reached out to their client, and they wrote an offer on the house. So it's really about getting fine tuned into who we're going after, and then all the steps backwards of that. And that includes the landing page that we build out. I use Claude for that, and have the instructions for that now after 3 hours painstaking on a Saturday. Now everybody
Yeah.
else can do it in 15 minutes. But yeah, so it's all of the wording, all of the context, all of the socials, the videos, everything that goes into it is all speaking to that person so that they can relate. And we're not speaking to such a broad audience that, if you speak to everybody, you're kind of speaking to nobody.
Yeah.
And so we just use that concept. And then we do things with Notebook LM where we'll create the presentations from, the video, kind of an explainer video. And of
Yep.
course, with those, it's great because you can obviously make yourself the expert, cite Jayson Flory with Turnkey Real Estate, or any one of my agents, so if it's the agents that's the face of the listing, I'll make them the expert. So then this person hears this before we even get there, of all these things, or maybe we've had pricing conversations and they're like, "Oh, I want to list at X and it's 15% too high." Then I'll put into Notebook LM, like, use these comps, lean in this way a little bit so that they can understand the cost of listing too high,
Yeah.
or the days on market, or, kind of speaking to their pain points so that it's coming from this other entity and not us.
Yeah.
We've done the podcast on Notebook LM as well.
Sure.
And you just using all of those factors in building that, and all of that gets put into Gamma, which is what we use for our listing presentation itself.
Presentation. Yeah. So let's dig in. Let's take one use case and walk through the whole process of how you sort of came up with the buyer persona. Maybe that LA one is it maybe a good example
Mhm.
since you referenced it. So you were listing a property and you created a buyer persona, the ideal buyer for, or the
Mhm.
most probable buyer for this. So let's talk about how did you build the buyer persona, where AI was helpful in helping you kind of identify what data points went into it to build the buyer persona. And then we can shift to how did you figure out people, those buyer persona potentially could come from LA, right? And then kind of walk through that process a little bit.
So I'll touch on that one, but I have a different one that'll kind of blow your mind.
Sure,
So
sure,
that
either
one,
one.
yeah, it was at the time of the fires. So
Yeah.
I knew people were leaving. It didn't matter if it was a $400,000 house or an $800,000 house. They needed
Okay.
something fast. This
Yeah.
happened to be that person that it was like a $450,000-$500,000 house in Fresno in the
Yeah.
middle of us in LA. And so I looked at some of the demographics of people leaving LA, why, and those kinds of things as well. The moving charts just made sense. And then you add on the fact that everybody was fleeing LA to have some sort of house. It made sense. And so we got some insights from Fresno itself and then LA. But one of the first ones we did was one in Folsom here, and the house, beautiful single story house, beautiful backyard for entertaining and those kinds of things. But the buyer, it said, was somebody in their early to late 40s. It says that they've got two kids. He is in either tech or healthcare. She is middle management or a teacher. And schools are going to be important because their two kids are either elementary or middle school age. And he's going to want something more for kind of the outdoor living, and she's going to want something for shopping. So that's how we built the video. And we went to all of those different spots, from here's where you take the family on a Friday night, in Old Town Folsom. Here's the shopping at the Palladio. We were at Folsom Lake, and we talked about Folsom Lake and the weekends and getting outdoors and all these things. And so that's who we marketed to. And it said they're coming from the Bay Area. So we put a little bit more dollars behind our spend from the Bay, and then obviously incrementally in Sacramento. They ended up coming from the Bay Area. They were in their early 40s. They had two kids. He was not, remember it said healthcare or tech. He was actually tech at Sutter. So he got two boxes, two of the two. She was a teacher. They did have two kids. One was in middle school, one is in elementary school. And so schools were important for both of those factors. And this house itself had kind of a really wide driveway, and he wanted something that he could store his boat because he wanted to go to the lake on the weekends. And she wanted something close to shopping. So it hit every single parameter. And we spoke to it in the videos, which means all of our wording spoke to it, which helped all the SEO, which means our Instagram videos, the same thing. So it helps, it's very synergistic when you know who it is that you're speaking to ahead of time.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things I feel people that are leaning into AI, marketing has to feel like one-to-one. And much of marketing, I feel like gets a bad rap because it's like one to like everybody,
Yep.
and I think the more you can lean in with personas like you built, where it talks to the person that you're targeting, which is a group of people, demographics, I think you get more results. It's just proven with or without AI. And I think AI can help you get there. And that's really what you're saying. So I want to kind of shift the attention to I suspect that you are actually leaning into this messaging when you go into buyer consultations or listing presentations. And how do you sort of weave that into your presentation? Because there's a lot of agents listening or watching us go into appointments and they have a story to tell, or they don't have a story around how they leverage AI to maximize the outcome for their clients. So talk about that as you sort of weave that into your DNA, business DNA.
Well, yeah, I think every listing seller is going to be a little bit different.
Yeah,
The 90-year-old that isn't on Facebook,
sure.
even, probably we're not leaning into it a ton. And then we've got one listing where she does ads for Facebook. So she's very, analytical. What's it look like? Where are you going?
Yeah.
And so the communication is I would say everybody, the broad brush, 80% of who we talk to, though, knows that it's about exposure. And so how are we going to expose it? Well, you have to do more than the average agent that puts a sign in your yard. Let's say go on Zillow, unless you're with a different company that doesn't, and sits back and waits for people. Right.
Yeah.
So, and then there's the better agent that will run some ads. And then there's us who is on the forefront of technology and says, we know who it is. So when we talk exposure, we also want to expose it to the actual person that's going to buy your house. And
Right.
so we will, what's that?
I said right exposure to the right audience.
Yeah. It's not just a million eyeballs. I'd rather 1,000 eyeballs that all wanted to live in that case, Folsom with a 3,000 square foot house near the lake. Yeah. And so it creates a different energy around it. And so we utilize that when we're communicating with them as to, it's not just exposure. We're talking to this person, and here's all the things behind it that we're going to do, from all of the social ads, all of the showcase, all of those different things. We're doing it all so that we're on all channels, but speaking to a specific audience that's going to see, because everybody's going to see it. We want to speak to the ones going to buy it.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's money well spent too, because instead of just throwing stuff on the wall, especially with advertising, you're actually doing YouTube. I'm assuming, just talk about your ad platform, things that obviously it varies based on audiences, but what are your ad platforms that have given you the most results using this approach?
Yeah, YouTube in-stream ads. We use that. I stole that from Dustin Fox.
Yeah.
And to where, I'm now at grocery stores. Oh yeah, I've seen you on YouTube or blah, blah, blah. And then we'll use Instagram ads, and then Facebook obviously as well. I did just recently get approved with the ChatGPT ads. Yeah. I've got an ad campaign running, because I think that's pay-per-click Google words of 2004. And so trying to get ahead of that. So yeah, I mean, we lean into where the eyeballs are. Now, of course, as well, I should say, if my buyer is in their 30s, I'm probably not running heavy Facebook.
Yeah.
I'm going to run much heavier on Instagram. If my buyer's in their 50s or 60s,
sure,
I'm going to lean out of Instagram and way more in Facebook.
Yeah.
And then they're both going to see YouTube. Obviously, it's the biggest search engine for home buyers.
Yeah.
YouTube.
One of the things that caught my attention when you were talking about that is two things. One, what channel to sort of lean in a little bit more based on the demographic. Not rocket science, but makes sense. Second, you mentioned Shannon Gillette earlier on Dustin Fox. And I think some of the most successful agents kind of look at what's working with people that are really killing it in certain areas. And curiosity, you experiment and you try, and you don't have to reinvent the whole wheel. Yeah. Just observe, imitation is the best form of flattery, in many cases. And you've sort of leaned in and kind of learned from the best people doing certain good things in certain areas of marketing. So that's a great takeaway. So I know you also written a book, Jayson. So I see that in the background. If you're watching us on YouTube, Jayson's got his book. So talk to me about why did you write it, and who the audience is, and we'll put a link to that book in the show notes as well.
Thank you. It's Empowered Agents, AIGENTS, kind of a play on spelling there. Yeah. The reason I wrote it was because last year Realty One Group was doing a talk, it's called Rog Talks. Yeah. And I was speaking on AI. And while I am, kind of known here in the office and the offices around as the AI guy, I wanted a little bit more credibility. And so I put my thoughts to, I think it was Chad at that time, and said, okay, here's what I'm doing. Here's what I want to accomplish. And here's, some of the reasons, and kind of just fleshed it out. It is a very, very quick read. I probably 30 to 45-minute read, okay. Super basic. And like you said, a lot of it's probably even outdated, but the fundamentals are there. The questions to ask ChatGPT to ask you, which could now be Claude or Gemini or whatever it is. And so, yeah, it was really to add credibility to what I was going to be speaking about. But at the same time, as I'm building it, I'm also learning more and developing more because I've got to be able to provide the context and the content. And so, yeah, that's how it came about. And it's been fun to give. I went to a Tom Ferry event here in Sacramento, and I gave him my book, and he's like, "Did you sign it?" I'm like, "No, you're Tom. I didn't sign my book." He's like, "No, sign it and give me one for Jayson too. I'll send it to him." And I was like, "Okay, so it's much better than a business card, that's for sure." And so, yeah, I love having them, being able to keep, on hand, just like our listing that we just got with the Facebook clients. I gave her a copy, because she's into AI. And also I think it, I don't know, kind of checks some people. It's like, oh yeah, I'm into AI. Well, here's my book. Oh, okay. It's a different standard now, a different stage. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that definitely is. We'll put a link to that book in the show notes, folks. If it's a quick read, you should definitely add it to your book reading list for sure.
Yeah.
So Jayson, one of the things you mentioned earlier was ChatGPT ads, which is relatively new. I mean, it's in sort of beta mode, if you could call it. And if you're listening to this, it's where a billion people are going in so many ways already. And the ads are shown primarily for the free account folks, not the paid, as of today. So talk to me a little bit about any early learnings from that platform that agents listening to this that want to dig into that should think about.
Well, like you said, it's in such an early beta test. I've heard, some very big brokers are like, yeah, I did it and I got six impressions, not even clicks. We just started it this week, so I don't have anything that I can say, oh yeah, and we already got 4 leads from it. But it is nice that you can determine, do you want the impressions or the clicks? And I'm spending for the actual clicks because I'm using Pantana's bottom of the funnel process. So these people are much more high intent, or should be more high intent than the Google, Facebook leads that we're also, spending money for. And so it's definitely a higher cost. It's $350 per click. But that person should be much more, based on the intent phrases, that we're using. And that's just it. It's not about keywords with this. It's about phrases. I'm moving from the Bay Area to Sacramento. What are the best neighborhoods? Those kinds of questions, because it's much more intent focused than real estate agent Sacramento.
And and the last question to close the loop. I mean, this is just like, advertising 101. Like, where do you take them? Is the whole process, right? I mean, you could do a really killer ad, buyer persona, but if the landing page is off and it's not converting, so talk a little bit about maybe that one thing you're running on ChatGPT in terms of a landing page. What optimization you've done to truly make that converting at a high level?
So the landing page goes to my specific, sync. So it's jason.turnthekeyaria.com, because I didn't want it to go to the general and then have to figure, okay, I don't know how they came here. So since I'm only running that one specific thing, it's going to come through me and I can disseminate it to the team. And what we do for the SEO of that is, I've got 10 blog posts a day that my VA goes and puts on our site. Again, I'm part of the AIM group, so I use a lot of Pantana's stuff. And he said 1 a week. I was like, well, if that's good, 1 a day is better. If 1 a day is better than 10 a day is great. And so, so that's what we, it's 10 a day bottom of the funnel blog posts that get put on there. And it's absolutely helped our SEO. I had a friend of mine that was trying to find a house. She didn't just text me. I haven't talked to her in 20 years. And she was like, yeah, I Googled it, and yours was the first site that popped up. And she's like, well, I know him. I'm going to go and see again. She Googled it a different way. And again, we were the number one after all the ads. And so we do that. And then with the SEO aspect of things, one of the other things that we do using a workflow, or I do, is I take those same exact 10 blog posts, and then I have a workflow that creates a blog post, it drops it into a Google Drive. Then from the Google Drive, it gets picked up and rewritten from Claude. Claude rewrites it into a 60-second video. It then gets dropped into HeyGen. HeyGen redoes it with my 11 Labs voice, which I need to redo. They've done a lot of updates. And then that gets posted on YouTube Shorts. So I have 10 shorts a day now getting posted, and they're like, between us and whoever's watching, they're garbage. And I don't care. I'm not trying to go get thousands of views on them, because I know that Gemini, when they do their search or their feedback, when somebody is searching, they're using shorts as their source. That's their citation is YouTube Shorts. And so with 10 bottom of the funnel videos being produced every single day, we're going to be what pops up.
Yeah, and I tell this to agents too. I mean, that's a good reference segue into getting to our final questions is, think about if you produce a video that answers a specific question being asked on AI. Mm-hmm. Like, is now a good time to sell my home in a specific neighborhood in Sacramento? And if you lead with that question in the shorts, this question is going to help you answer, is now a good time to sell? That all those transcripts are being scoured by Gemini. And you could do this. If you're watching this, you should go actually search for that long, I call it long tail, but just a conversational text, and click on the AI mode in Gemini and look at the right gutter. There's invariably a YouTube video that it felt was talking to that. And I think what you're doing is kind of doing the full circle: blog post, YouTube Shorts, transcript, to talking to AI. And I think that's where the world is headed. Now, I'm always a believer in quality versus quantity, but if you can start with one a day, you can get to Jayson's 10 a day. Okay, so don't be overwhelmed. And Jayson, you have a process. It's not like you're doing these 10 things. It's just some automation, blog post content, to Agent, to 11 Labs. So it's not like you're sitting in front of a camera all day. It's happening. No. Some automation is happening. So if you're listening to this, start with one a day, get into a rhythm, build some automations, and leverage AI like HeyGen and some make.coms in terms of automation stuff to build that funnel, right?
Yeah. I just see the updates from HeyGen. I'm like, oh, there's another one I got posted today. All right, let's go see what it looks like. Like I haven't redone that video for 3 months. So
yeah. And I think that's a good segue. So anything else you want to add on the AI stuff that people listening should pay attention to before I get to my final two questions that I ask all my guests?
No, I mean, I think that's kind of the challenge with AI is, yes, there's a million other things that I could say, but then, it's kind of like the lion tamer, you don't target one thing because there's, 3 things pointing back at you. You don't know what to start with. And so I think, starting with those basics and there's certainly a lot more we can do with it. And yeah.
Now, this has been very helpful. I think my key takeaways, just at a high level, are buyer personas and targeted advertising. Drive more ROI for your budget and show value to your buyers and sellers. And just the tech stack of how you're sort of ranking and kind of driving content, and just overall, I think that's been the overall theme for listeners, and it's going to be very valuable. So let me kind of get to the final two questions. You've been in the business 9 years. If you had to lean in on one piece of advice that you'd give someone listening for your 9 years experience, it could be AI, personal, business, it doesn't matter, that it would help a real estate agent listening to elevate their game, what would that one piece of advice be, Jayson?
It's funny because it's probably the same advice I give myself every day, and that's make more expired calls.
Make more expired calls. I love it. Love it. Yeah.
It's not something I was taught in the beginning. I was taught just go be a buyer's agent, focus on buyers. I'll do the sellers, blah, blah, blah. And it's still not even a piece that I really want in my business. Like I want it in my business. It's not where I want it to be, I should say. But yeah, just developing those disciplines and skill sets around the expired calls, because they're always going to be there. And there's a lot of AI automation and, workflows that we can create to then help double back on those that we are calling. But the work still has to get done.
Yeah, for sure. Great piece of advice. Yeah. It's all about driving more business opportunities, I should say. So, last question before I let you go. Are you a book or a podcast person?
I'm a very slow reader. So I've gotten much more into podcasts, hence us being here right now.
Yeah.
But I will say, from the book perspective, and the real estate side, if there's one book that I give every agent that joins my team, it's Ryan Serhant's Sell It Like Serhant, because it's just so foundational, like an entire school, which I think he actually does have, but could be developed around just that book, from the FKD principle and, those kinds of things. So I love that. For podcast, I would say I'm a huge proponent, fan of Broke Agent Media with Byron and Eric. And so anything that's now BAM related, but for sure, Knowledge Brokers with him, Tom, and Lisa. That's, my team's getting that. And now with Eric kind of branching off and having his own page to help their algorithms and whatnot. I listen to their marketing stuff every single week.
Yeah, good stuff. Of course, besides your book, they should definitely get the book you recommend, which is Sell It Like Serhant. This has been fun, Jayson. Thank you for connecting. Thank you for hopping on. And I hope to meet you in real life sometime real soon.
Absolutely. Look forward to it. Thank you.
If you found value in the show, follow it so you're notified every Wednesday when new episodes drop. Share it with someone in the industry you care for, and leave us a review as it helps us reach more real estate professionals like you.